Good morning, everyone. I joked last night as we were setting up here that this looks like it's set up for the biggest bingo game in Newfoundland and Labrador. Either that or the biggest cafeteria. But I gotta say, as I walked in, I felt safe, and I'm sure you feel the same way. This morning, we're going to talk about procurement and some of the new opportunities that exist for our cities and towns across the province. But before I go any further, I just want to acknowledge a number of the people that we have on stage with us this morning for a specific reason. So our friends from Grainger Canada, Katrina and Matt, have been very gracious in becoming sponsors of this conference, and they've sponsored all the PPE that you will see used throughout their facility. So all the hand sanitizer, all the masks, all the wipes, and all those things. So I'd like to give, if you'd help me, give them a round of applause for their dedication to this conference. And of course, being the individual that coordinates the sponsorships, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge a couple while I'm up here at the podium. So of course, our friends at the Department of Municipal and Provincial Affairs, Cal Legro, Newfoundland Power, Offshore Fishery Association, Stuart McKelvey, ExploreNet, NL 911, and Trio Benefits. So that group are our presenting sponsors and our luncheon sponsors and our nutrition sponsors. So thank you very much for all their support. So this morning we're here to talk about procurement. No one ever said procurement was exciting, but I've got to be quite honest with you, I am very excited about this one, and you will be too when I explain what we're doing. Okay, now I can see my presentation. So the title of our presentation today is Purchasing Opportunities for Cities and Towns, as I mentioned a moment ago. We have some key partners here with us this morning. So on my far left is Tim Elms. Tim is the Client Relations Manager for Canoe Procurement Canada. He's our representative on the Atlantic Coast, your representative. We also have Dave Dextrays. Dave is the Manager of National Partnerships. Dave is with us from Alberta. Welcome, Dave. Of course, you all know Roger, our conference chair. Thank you for the great intro, Roger. We also have our friends from Grainger, as I noted. So we have Katrina King. Katrina is the Atlantic Government Segment Manager. And we also have Matt Wells, who is the Account Manager. And Matt is actually here from Corner Brook. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. So I'm going to take a quick run through what we've been doing the past couple of months, because we've been working diligently on your behalf to advance the opportunities that exist for you, to put some additional tools in your toolbox, as they say. So we all know that at the beginning of the 24 months that are in our rearview mirror now, when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, that we all faced some significant supply issues when it came to items of importance to our community. Whether that was chemicals, building supplies, PPE, or just some of the run-of-the-mill things like toilet paper and paper towel that we require to run our buildings and facilities. Those things became unattainable for a short period of time. And I'm sure you all experienced it. I spoke with many of you during the onset of the pandemic trying to source these things. Thankfully, the partnerships that MNL created and continue to maintain allowed us to get many of those supplies that we needed when others could not. But it did show us, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, that we had some significant weaknesses in the process. We were limited in many of the things that we could do because of the regulations and so on. But COVID, to say the least, was eye-opening. It showed those weaknesses, but it also allowed MNL, and on your behalf, to focus in on where the opportunities exist and where we can find ways to improve in the future. So you're all familiar with the procurement process, I'm sure. Your town managers and clerks and everyone included would understand that there is a rigorous process involved to ensure that public money is spent appropriately, and to ensure that the right documentation's in place, and of course to protect the vendors and businesses themselves, of course, here in this province who supply us. So we've got a great relationship with the Public Procurement Agency. We have regular meetings with the Chief Procurement Officer, Heather Tizard, her team, Mark Janes and Mark Drover, and many others. And they've been very helpful, I'm sure, to you as well over the last 24 months and prior to that, to help you navigate the tender process, the various calls that we have to undertake. And I'm sure they've also pointed us in the right direction when it comes to soliciting the appropriate quotes and executing our tenders and so on. That relationship, I know, is very valuable for you, and it's been extremely valuable for us. So I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge today in front of you all the great work that they are doing at the Public Procurement Agency. I think you all know we have a new Public Procurement Act that was proclaimed just a little while ago. I'm not sure if you noticed, but there's a fly flying around the podium, and I don't want to be like Joe, was it not Joe Biden, who was the Vice President Pence, where the fly went in his head. So if you see me going like this, it's because a fly keeps coming up to the podium. But back to my original point, we have a great relationship with the Public Procurement Agency, and we have a very strong piece of legislation that supports our operations as municipalities. But one of the weaknesses of the legislation that we pointed out was the lack of authority for us to utilize buying groups, which are a really common practice now right across the country, around North America, and indeed around the world. These buying groups essentially create an enormous pool of buyers. So you know what it's like if you go out to buy 2 or 3 items on a tender, you're going to get a great deal on 2 or 3 items as opposed to one. Well, as my colleagues here from Canoe Procurement are going to tell you later, the sheer amount of what we're buying under the program, when partnered with various organizations across the country, is absolutely enormous. So when you go from purchasing 3 or 4 things to 3,000 or 4,000, obviously prices are going to change. So we'll explain that a little bit more in a few minutes. During COVID, as I said, we saw some major changes, and one of those in particular was the increase in procurement thresholds. These heightened thresholds were brought more so in line with the federal thresholds that the federal government and other federal agencies have to utilize. But as you all know, it went up to a little over 105,000 for goods and other products. And of course, construction went up over 250. This constituted almost a doubling of what our permissible thresholds were. And that did give us a lot more latitude during the COVID-19 pandemic. We didn't have to go get 3 quotes on absolutely everything. Those that we did, we could go to a higher amount without having to go to an RFQ or a call for proposals or a full tender process. It worked well. Many of you had some excellent experience with those increased thresholds, and it did give you some great latitude. We're really happy that they've been maintained thus far, and of course we're advocating that continues. But we're still limited, and it's primarily because oftentimes we have to go it alone. And that's not necessarily by design. We can work together as municipalities. The City of Mount Pearl worked on a joint tender quite some time ago for IT services, and of course they were able to share that with their neighboring communities. We're seeing many people undertake joint cooperative purchasing, especially in rural Newfoundland where we have small communities. It's very smart for you folks to work together where you can. The greater the buying power, the better price that you're going to typically get. And then, about 3 years ago, I think in total, M&L behind the scenes, notwithstanding everything that was going on with COVID, notwithstanding what we do with cooperative buying collectively, we undertook developing a partnership with Canoe Procurement. Many of you may know Canoe as RMA Trade, because back in 2019, when we announced this, that's what they were called. But they've rebranded, and the gentleman here to my left and your right will elaborate on that in a few minutes. But I put up the Canadian Heritage Minute because there's a really deep history with Canoe Procurement that the boys will talk about. But we've been working for a number of years on something really, really important to the sector. And I put this up kind of as a joke, but really just to draw attention to it, that we've worked really hard over the last couple of years to bring this program together, to get the appropriate authorities, and I'll get into that in a moment. But it is really something good, and you will, for the first couple of minutes this morning, think, oh, this is too good to be true. And Amy mentioned that in her intro. We're really excited because, yeah, it may sound too good to be true, but what we're about to tell you is, in fact, true. So, in your delegate kits, as you registered, you received a procurement guide, you received a business card from Tim, as well as a copy of a letter from the Chief Procurement Officer to Craig Pollard, our CEO, and copied to myself, that gives us the authority to purchase under this buying group known as Canoe Procurement Canada. So we gave you the letter because we wanted to highlight the fact that this is, in fact, not too good to be true, primarily, but also to highlight the fact that we're only the second province in Canada that actually has this in writing. Now, many of the provinces that are partners, or provincial and territorial associations that are partners with Canoe, they undertake this, they do it, and they have a word-of-mouth agreement with their procurement agencies. But we are only the second in the country that has gotten this approval, and what it required was a ministerial regulation change effectively in the legislation and the process of the legislation. And for any of you that have any history looking to get legislative change or regulation change, you can appreciate how big of an undertaking that is. It requires cabinet approval. It first of all requires encouraging a minister of the Crown or a department to agree with your position. And then there are countless meetings, months of meetings, and in this case, over 2 years of meetings to get the change that we required. So I encourage you to read that letter in great detail, and I also encourage you to pass it on to your town managers and town clerks and anyone that's involved in procurement within your organization. So what we're going to do, now that I've told you the authority is in your kit and you're going to read it and the regulation change has been implemented for us to use buying groups, I'm going to hand it over to our colleagues at Canoe to come up and talk about what this buying group is all about. And then we're going to talk to Grainger, one of our vendors, and then I'll come back up and answer any questions that you might have. So I'll hand things over, I believe, to Dave is going to start out. So Dave Dextre is the Manager of National Partnerships with Canoe. Over to you, Dave.
Can I take my mask off? Good morning, Municipalities Newfoundland, Labrador. I'd like to thank you so much for having us up here today. We really appreciate the opportunity. I'm Dave Dextre, as Brad had mentioned, Manager of National Partnerships. And you know, I'm a little bit nervous up here today because we're hearing about how exciting the presentation will be. So hopefully we don't disappoint you all. At any rate, first thing I'd like to do is maybe start out with the video. If we can cue up the video, that would be great.
From the Pacific Ocean, over the Rockies, across the Great Plains, past the Great Lakes, through the Appalachians, and to the Atlantic Ocean, municipalities and other public sector organizations work hard every day to build this great country. Like the voyageurs of old, municipal associations have partnered to build cooperative trade routes across Canada, securing better pricing and service for the entire group. Office supplies, construction equipment, fuel, group benefits, road maintenance, parks and recreation, and so much more. All tendered on your behalf and fully trade compliant. This is public procurement for all of Canada. Welcome to Canoe. Visit canoeprocurement.ca to learn how Canoe can help your organization.
So I've heard a couple times that it sounds like this program could be too good to be true. Actually, just a little story here. I was in public sector for many years, way too long, from 25 years. And when we first started looking at this program, group buying wasn't anything new, but we were using it for smaller purchases, things like that. And we were having provincial programs and things that we could do our purchasing through. But what had happened is that there's been a change in the whole procurement industry with group procurement agencies in that they're now able to purchase with the buying power of using their neighbors. And when we look at Canoe Procurement Group of Canada, is that we help to bring that to all of our neighbors right across Canada. And so what we'd like to do, if we can cue up the slideshow as well, would be great, is talk a little bit about it. So when I said it was too good to be true, is that I was actually one of the purchasing officers. I was Director of Public Works, and we were the first to purchase graders through this program, and that was unheard of, actually the first in Canada. And it was one of those things where, am I going to go to jail? Can we really make this work? And I guess the good news, at least for me, is that I'm still here. Hopefully for you, it's not too boring, but it does work. it is trade compliant, as Brad had mentioned, and that it is usable for all of our public sector partners in this. So who is Canoe? We are a cooperative buying group. We partnered with Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador in 2019. And as Brad had mentioned, we had gotten provincial approvals as well. And we're a not-for-profit. And so what it is Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador are one of the founding partners of Canoe. So it's not like it's a profit agency or anything like that. We are a municipal government agency working on your behalf. And Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador is one of our first partners within this group. So we're really excited about that. We have been going since 1936 under a different name. And so we've got a fairly long history, and we've been working with public procurement for a long time. We have over 5,000 members across Canada. And so when we look at the members, of course, when you're looking at group buying programs, is that what you can do is now we aggregate all the purchases, and we do get better leverage to get our contracts in place and be able to get better pricing for you. We include any not-for-profit, any municipal public sector. So, and it fits within the legislation that we're incorporated underneath. So, even if you have like your fire departments and things like that, they can all benefit from the use of this program for sure. We also have a program called Sourcewell. Some of you may have heard of it, but we've partnered with a group out of the United States. And so what we do is we make the contracts legal here in Canada, and then it gives us the leverage of pretty much all of North America, especially on what we would call our capital purchasing program. So when we look at it, is that, well, who really are we? And you can see a bunch of logos up on the screen there and across Canada. So we're all partners together right across Canada, working towards bringing the pricing advantages and also the administrative advantages to everyone here, which can help save money as well and time. I know in the municipality I was in, we didn't have a procurement officer per se. We had a smaller municipalities, and that's the beauty about this, is that whether you're a big or small municipality, you can all benefit from it. And you can see from our partnerships across Canada here is that we've got great buy-in, great partners right across Canada that are working with Canoe Procurement. So how can we help? Well, definitely, with looking at budgets, we're always trying to find better ways to provide service to what we would call our ratepayers or the taxpayers, and also be able to become more efficient as administrations in local government. So with the aggregated buying power that we have across Canada, we do have the preferred pricing. And our pricing is established through an RFP process, so the tender process. Saves you time. We go to tender on your behalf. So what we do is we advertise, so we meet all of the Canadian Free Trade requirements and also the provincial requirements. And so what we're doing is saving you time, your administration time, by not having to go to tender, create these large tender documents, and to be able to have to advertise and the time it takes in order to do this. And so that reduces the administration costs and quite frankly, the stress. I know when we used to go to tender, we used to create these huge books because we'd look at tender documents from all our neighbors and try to incorporate everything. And so this really makes it much simpler in order for you to purchase these big purchases. Additional benefits is that we have a wide access to a variety of suppliers, and Tim's going to talk more about this as we move forward. We have over 120 suppliers, but with our Sourcewell program, over 500 suppliers. So we have a lot of suppliers. And we like to say everything from toilet paper to fire trucks, because we do have everything that a municipality, quite frankly, would need. The other good thing about this, and this is, as Brad was talking when we were working with the Newfoundland Labrador government, in order to get the approvals, was there was a really big stress on local content. Are local businesses going to benefit from this? Does it take them out of the picture? And this was a really important piece. And we see this across Canada in that definitely we do work with the local suppliers. As an example, we have contracts with Grainger as an example, and who have been amazing partners, especially throughout the pandemic. And what this contract does is it utilizes your locals here that are right in Newfoundland, Labrador. And so there are people employed, there are people working here, and it is benefiting your local economy, even though our tenders are on a national scale. So that was a really big piece to make sure that we were using the local suppliers. And Tim will talk a little bit more about some of the suppliers that we have and how they are benefited in the local communities. There's no membership fees. You're all members. As being a member of Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador, is that you're members now. And we encourage you to look at the programs and to test the programs for sure. We have member support. We have Tim Elms here, who is on site and able to visit with you if you're open to that, and talk to you about the advantages of using M&L's program for procurement, Canoe. And there's no minimum. That's the other nice thing. There's no minimum purchases required. That's important because lots of times it could be, hey, all I need is a few masks or whatever. And so that's a really important piece, is there's no minimums required as well. And so we found that to really work well with our members. How do we comply? And just a quick piece. We don't want to go into all the legislation and all the big pieces there, but we do meet the provincial and federal trade regulations. As Brad showed you, the letter there is that we were really excited to be able to have the provincial approvals. And so that really provides a comfort level for you and your administration to be able to use these contracts comfortably and know that they are approved under any of our trade agreements and things like that. And so all that's left for you to do, quite frankly, is under the Canadian Free Trade Agreement, is they just say that you need to post annually on the accepted electronic tendering site for Newfoundland, Labrador, just saying that you are going to be using the programs. And that brings you into full compliance and being able to use any one of the programs. So that's an important piece, just to be sure that you're doing your due diligence and showing that you are using the programs. And what I'll do is I'll introduce Tim Elms to come up and speak.
Dave, you did such a good job cleaning. I think I might need to hire you to come to my hotel room and clean up my spot. It's a bit messy. All right, nice to meet everyone. I'm Tim Elms, and I'm the Atlantic Canadian rep for Canoe Procurement. Dave got all the great slides, and they got to show off the video, so I get to walk you through some of my favorite slides. This slide that we have up right now actually really puts it in perspective what these programs are about. What I normally like to do is walk you through where the middle piece is right here, where we actually have the documents online. But what we can do is, if you like, come by our booth and we can set up a time and I can actually come by your offices and show you where all the documentation is. Now, everybody else said that procurement's not exciting. I might be a geek. I think it's exciting because we've been doing pretty exciting stuff specifically in the Atlantic region. So if you're looking at the slide right now, it really shows you the meat and potatoes of the program. And you guys actually have a copy of this in your bag as well in the membership guide. So all the points that we talked about with the compliancy, as well as using the programs as tools, and there's no commitment level, there's no fee to join. It's all available in the membership guide. But breaking down this slide, you can see there's 11 points. So when you go for a traditional RFP, and those 11 points are in the blue numbers there. So it's traditional versus cooperative procurement. So the cooperative procurement is the orange circle with the orange line on top. So when you normally go for an RFP, you identify your needs. Say you need a fire truck. Well, at step number 2, you're researching the options. This is where a lot of the mistakes happen, specifically with the fire trucks that I've seen, and I'm sure Dave can attest. A lot of times, you buy a fire truck every 10 years, and then you just recycle your old RFP and change the dates. Well, things change. What's better is if you're talking to the vendor. So at step 2 with our program, you're actually talking to a vendor, and that's avoiding any mistakes. Because when we see with fire trucks, usually the fire truck is if they've gone through the 11 steps and they've done the RFP, sometimes the fire truck will come and it'll be too big to fit into the garage. And we've seen that multiple times, even with cities like Halifax, not with the fire truck, but with buses, where the bus was too big to fit into their newly built garage. It can save time and money if they just talk to a vendor, one of our approved vendors, immediately at the second stage. So as I mentioned here, you got to spec out the equipment number 3, 4, you got to obtain contract pricing, write the tender, advertise the tender, bid opening, bid evaluation, and award to the lowest bid. Finally, you get to issue a PO if you like what you got, and it doesn't offer you that that procurement flexibility that our programs offer. So this is where you're going to really find the benefit to it. With our programs, you decide you need a fire truck, you're calling up Rosenbauer, you're calling up E1, you're telling them what you want, they're building the specs, they walk you through all the insides and outs, they give you the quote, and you have a couple options at this point. This is great, you say, and as you can see with the orange line, you skip to the PO stage, you offer a PO, and then your fire truck's in process to being made. Or, if you like, your second option, you can go with another approved vendor. You get that quote from Rosenbauer, you know what, I'm not feeling this quote, let's try another one of the approved vendors for the fire trucks. So you can go to one of our other approved vendors. And if all else fails, you guys know your business. You guys know your towns. You know what's going to work for you. You can actually use our programs as tools, or you can decide to do your own traditional RFP following those 11 steps. The only caveat with that, as your third option, is that means our programs are off the table. But we just want to make sure that things are easy for you. So it just makes sense as if because the RFP process has been done on your behalf. All right, now that I've done that, and that was clear as mud, I'd love to take the time one day to talk with each one of you about the different spots of where all those papers are online, because they're open, it's transparent, and the compliance is there. So reach out anytime. You've got my contact. I will talk about the programs, a few of them that we have. As Dave mentioned, we have over access to 120 suppliers. The programs are growing every day, close to 50 now. And some of the programs that we have currently are so great, and they're growing with as the vendors grow, and the pricing is great, and the availability is there. Our members are protected against scarcity. They're protected against price increases because the contracted lifts are already built in. So it's really proving to be successful with a lot of members across Canada. So the first program I want to talk about is tire programs. It's to keep your municipality running smoothly. Program benefits is that it's a national account pricing and direct from Michelin and Goodyear. Our RFP is coming up this year with this as well, so we're going to see some more vendors in response to our RFP. So keep an eye open on that. If you have any questions on the Michelin tires, right now it's scarcity because, well, everything's scarce right now. But our members, I'm sure you probably all received an email from me with regards to a Michelin deal that we had sent out. I'm not sure if anybody got it, but if you need tires, it's a good opportunity to get on board, and we just reach out. My job's not to do quotes, but it's to introduce you to the Michelin rep and the Goodyear rep so that you can get the best services possible. Second, one of our other programs is the auto parts program. So we've partnered with a few vendors in the Atlantic region. It gives you an access wide range of auto parts, products, services for trucks and industrial vehicles. This is the NAPA program. And so if you do have a NAPA account, reach out to me. We can actually set you up with an account so you can cross-reference the pricing for the programs. You can also actually, before you even spend anything, just see what kind of savings you get. Same thing goes with our partner, our approved vendor, Grainger. If you need an account set up to see what you're already spending with Grainger, let's set you up. It's 24-hour delivery, technical training, and shop management training. Keep moving forward. Our office supply program. This has been a great program for our members. On average, when the cost analysis is done, because it's not about price, it's about saving that hard cost, which is absolutely the price, but it's also the soft cost, your time that you're doing shopping around for office supplies or any of your procurement needs. So you're saving on both ends of the spectrum. So the program for the office supplies is through Staples Professional, through their E-Way program. So you got the transparent, consistent pricing, reduced administrative hassle. In fact, they'll do a cost analysis for you, and on average, it's about a 30 to 35% savings. So again, we want to be able to help you out. Let's get you an account that you can, or your own E-Way that you can actually compare the pricing. It's as simple as that. Free next day delivery on orders of over $50. Full service business supplies, including PPE, products, furniture. On the PPE component, when we were kind of without PPE for a while, it took 3 days for an order to come through because our members are flagged in the system as essential services. And so when that need was there for PPE, our members were not only protected against the cost inflation, but also they were flagged in the system that if it looked like it was out online, they could still get it. So for me, I tried it out and I got my stuff in 3 days. Incredible. And again, free cost analysis, so I'd urge you to do that as well. I'm not going to go through, just take a side step, I'm not going to go through all the programs, just taking 5 here so that you can see what we got. The fleet upfitting program, Action Trucks, Car and Trucks, it's based in Atlantic Canada. It's a great company, and they're here to give you a full suite of fleet uplifting products, aftermarket accessories, install and service. Great approved vendor that can actually help with your needs for all your fleets, both for trucks that are large and small. It can be used for any of your fleet vehicles. They also work with peace officer vehicles and utility vehicles, as well as commercial truck and equipment as well. So that's the other thing too with our programs. There's multiple approved vendors that have been vetted through the process, that have gone through those 11 steps. So you can rest assured that if they're on our program, they've already been gone through and been vetted and been rated to make sure that you guys feel confident moving forward with your POs. And finally, we're going to look at our capital purchasing program, which kind of is a great segue into these guys over here, Grainger, who are a great partner of ours. So our capital purchasing program, as Dave mentioned before, we've partnered with Sourcewell, and for those of you who know, it's the largest procurement agency in North America. Canoe Procurement now underneath this umbrella. We're one of the largest non-for-profit procurement agencies in Canada, so we're excited by that, as you can tell by our shirts and our masks. But as you can see, the capital purchasing program, there's a list of vendors, long list of vendors. So for all your needs, you can reach out to me, but there's Navistar, there's Maxi Metal for fire trucks, Caterpillar, we've got Kubota, we've got Rosenbauer, as mentioned, John Deere. If you need it, chances are they're one of our approved vendors. So I urge you to check onto the Canoe Procurement website. We'll have the RFP documentation on there. We can also have the documentation, the links through Sourcewell. It has over 50,000 members. The contract number's there. You can include that on your PO. It's not to make your job harder, it's to make it easier. And that's what we're here for. Dave was giving me flack because he said, oh, your presentation looks a little stuffy. Let's make it fun. So that's what it's about. Making procurement fun. You have so much work to do. Making it easier for you, knowing that you're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. There's no gray area, especially with that letter from the municipal government, as Brad mentioned before. From Newfoundland government. So as I mentioned here too, Sourcewell is a great partnership of ours. They offer trade-ins, the warranties are in place, everything that you need. So again, my contact's in your bags there, but what we're gonna do is, we're gonna be at the booth, so I urge you to come by. Those of you with the blue masks, you can come by and get a great Canoe Procurement mask. We've got some goodies. Check your bag, there's hand sanitizer in there so that you guys can be safe. And as I said, it's a great opportunity for all you guys, and the Newfoundland government being on board has been a real true testament to our ability to service your needs. So without further ado, I'm gonna pass it over to our approved partnership here with Grainger, and they're going to be talking about how the programs works on their end.
Yep. All right, we're going to cue a video.
For the ones we trust to always be there. For the ones caring for others. For the ones who keep going no matter where they are. In extraordinary times, extraordinary people step up and tackle the big things and the little things that matter. For the ones making sacrifices, standing guard, and standing on the front lines, we're grateful for all you do, and we're always here to help you do it. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Okay, thank you to the team from Canoe. I'm Matt, myself and Katie are going to be here to give you sort of a little example within that whole GPO, that group purchasing organization that is Canoe. Thank you, Roger. So yeah, we're going to position ourselves as one example of a lever you can pull that is within now this purchasing scenario that you have at your disposal. Largely thanks to the Brad and the team at MNL. A little tip of the cap. I mean, myself and Katie, in our roles, we're regularly dealing with supply chain professionals, procurement professionals at every level of government, as well as with our commercial customers. This new way, the buying groups, sort of the old sort of term, the old adage, now it's GPO, Group Purchasing Organization. It comes with so much power. There was a lot there in that, but we just sort of want to show you what we are, what we're doing here. So the fact that MNL saw that through, we know, I mean, Brad put up a slide there with the Public Procurement Agency for Newfoundland and Labrador. Within that slide, I've been on that website, and there's actually a strategic sourcing division at the PPA. And their job is to find strategic alternatives, ways to procure for public entities in Newfoundland and Labrador, GPOs being one. So kudos to MNL for seeing this through, and hats off to Canoe too for this. And we're happy to be here. So as mentioned, I'm Matt. I'm from Corner Brook. Happy to be back here. So we'll jump right in terms of what Grainger looks like here in Newfoundland and Labrador. We do have a branch. It's in Mount Pearl. It's on Corey King Drive. We have 18,000 square feet. Oftentimes when I'm in there, I think we should be talking in cubic feet because the ceilings are so high in there as well. 18 local team members. Not a lot of people realize that. That just changed actually as of last Monday. We had 17. We now have 18 in the province. Obviously regular operating hours. I put a little asterisk there, all things considered these days. Pandemic in particular, we've had to be a little nimble and responsive to our customers accordingly. Also other things, I mean, out there on the East Coast, it was Snowmageddon last year. More recently now, we've had Hurricane Larry, but we're there. And even at the outset of the pandemic, we opened our doors on a Saturday for Eastern Health to get in there and get some of that critical PPE that was required. So we're here for our customers in Newfoundland and Labrador. We have access over to 1 million products and $3 million plus of local inventory sitting in that branch. That represents about 9,000 SKUs, I believe, at the moment, and across the 32 different product categories. So if you need it, we have it. When you look at that photo there, that's in our warehouse at the back of our branch. We don't decide what we have there. What we have there, those 9,000 SKUs, that 3 million plus in inventory, it's a direct correlation and response to what our local customers need. We're not going to bring it to Newfoundland and stock it here unless our customers need it. If you come to us and say, hey, look, this is something regularly we use, well, guess what? You can avoid the carrying cost and stocking it in your depots or in your offices. We can have it for you. Call us up. We'll ship it out to you. So again, that's me on the top left. I cover Western, I cover Labrador, and I cover Central. I'm colloquially known on the team as the Nomad with the team with Grainger NL. So you'll kind of see me everywhere. You'll see that truck bouncing around the province. I've been here 6 years. And actually, I should say, I think this is my fourth MNL AGM, but my first on, let's say this side of the coin. As so many, when I finished university, I went west. I was away for a number of years, moved back home, and lo and behold, a small town a few kilometers outside of Corner Brook, I found myself on a town council. So always excited to be here, and particularly excited to be back here in sort of this capacity. I definitely consider myself to have that sort of an appreciation of, you know, where the town managers are at, where your finance committees are at, and ultimately, let's face it, municipalities are being forced to do more with less, right? So I think this sort of an arrangement, this sort of a partnership can help sort of address that. I'll pass it over to Katie next. Katie, don't forget to take off your mask, perhaps, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Katie King. I am originally from Central, small little community, Hillgrade, just outside of Twillingate. So currently I do reside in Paradise. So excited to be here, and so we play in the maintenance, repair, and operating categories. So oftentimes it's referred to as messy, random, and overwhelming. So it's those things that keep your operations moving every day. And I'm assuming so many, the fun that we've had in these last 2 years and the situation that we've been, we've heard quite a bit from our municipalities in particular of being able to have that ability to pivot, make the changes when they need to change. There's new regulations, standards, et cetera, that come to market. Think of a few now with regards to arc flash assessments, lockout tagouts. And those are things that now when we look at this type of agreement and the scope of the alignment of where we are, those are the types of things now that we can get out with your teams. I mean, many of us are already there. We've been in many of your communities already, and that's how we support. So with that, I mean, a few other members of our teams, John Hurley, he's with our services division. I'm sure he's working with a good many of your fire departments currently and servicing the various breathing apparatus, PPE, et cetera, there currently. And then lastly, Dave Uden, so he's based out of our Newfoundland branch, 13 years tenure there, and here to support. So I strongly encourage if anybody is in around the area, swing by our branch, come by for a coffee. We can take a spin through the warehouse, show our services, tech services, and we'll speak to that a little bit there now. But my role, of course, I cover PEI, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland as well. So it's great to get that collaboration and work with our teams, of course, that are the boots on the ground. So we hear those consistent issues that are in your communities, in your municipalities. And again, I think having these types of tools now to be able to give you that flexibility to pivot when you need to, whether it's waste reduction, water management, et cetera. I mean, those are all things I'm sure that are on everybody's topics of conversations now currently, and where we can support with that. So you can move to the. Oh, sorry. Oh, there you go. There I am. So to maximize partnership and ensuring that you get the most for the investment there, and of course Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador, Tim spoke to competitive pricing. We are at booth 18, so feel free to come by. We can pull up and give you some of those exacts there. Distribution network, again, Matt spoke to the $3 million that's currently housed in our branch in Mount Pearl. With that, we have 5 major distribution centers across Canada. So currently we have 63 million plus of inventory that we can pull from. So when we talk about the supply chain situation currently and some of the disruptions that we're going to continue to see in a little bit, we've worked diligently since the start of this pandemic to make sure that we set ourselves up in that position to be able to service our municipalities and communities in particular, to be able to keep your operations flowing. So again, happy to speak through any of those additional questions, concerns, comments on how we've continued to work with our vendor partners to be able to secure the materials that you need to keep your community safe. Services and solutions, we'll speak to that in a little bit. Expertise, so myself and Matt are two faces, of course, but we have a full bench behind us. So whether it comes to field safety services, our tech services with regards to certifications, basically we say there's no question too small, too large that you can't throw to us, and we'll sure we'll have a team member to be able to connect with and support you folks. So supplier relationship, again, we rely heavily on our vendor partners. And with that said, I mean, there's so much work being done in these communities, so much, unique challenges, unique opportunities, excitement of opportunities that are happening. So as much as we can say, maintenance, repair, and operating can be overwhelming at sometimes, we touch every aspect of the business, from matting as you enter your facilities, air quality, water quality, et cetera. So excited to touch base with each one of you throughout these next couple of days and get a better understanding of the uniqueness that you folks face in your regions. And then lastly, ease of ordering, call, email, click. So we've remained open throughout this whole pandemic. We are deemed an essential service. So we haven't missed a day on this. I know my phone is on 7 days a week, and many of you, I'm sure, are already aware of that throughout this. So we are very flexible. We are very nimble. We are in your communities. And like I said, with the investment that Grainger makes in that local support, and also kudos to Canoe as well, to ensuring that partners have that support locally as well, and making sure that we are aware of what's happening in the communities. We're out, we have that communication happening. So with that said, I'll pass it back to Matt there, and he'll speak through a few things of how we're here to help.
Cool. Set. Yep. Okay, thank you, Katie. So yeah, we are here to help. That's a picture of our branch right there, actually. That's a mobile service truck. Katie mentioned John Hurley, him and his team. You've probably seen that truck in your fire department parking lot with time, maybe at some water types of facilities. So there's a lot here, and I feel in each sort of these categories that you see on the screen right now, Katie and I will regularly have meetings with customers and spend an hour per topic. Obviously, this is a very top-level introduction, and again, as an example of a lever that you could pull now within your municipality. So based on my experience, based on Grainger's capabilities, kind of threw up a few things here. It may be of concern to you and your municipality, it may not. But aging infrastructure, we all know that. It's a provincial thing for us. It's a reality here within our towns. Some towns are fortunate enough to have maybe a new town hall, maybe a new fire hall. But let's face it, even if you do have some aging buildings there in all likelihood, some aging infrastructure. It could be part of your water distribution network, maybe a chlorine building, something like that. There are aging buildings. I don't think anybody's going to object to that. Health and safety. I mean, we can build out programs. Maybe you feel that your municipality doesn't have a proper health and safety culture. We have certified safety professionals on our staff. That's their job, to come support our customers. Anything under the sun when it comes to health and safety, we can help. Public Works. I mean, when I was on a council, I was chair of the Public Works Committee. It felt like it was the biggest committee, or the busiest rather. So in terms of public works, when you're thinking of a municipality, a city, small town, large town, that's kind of the bulk of what's going on, right? As we know, that's what's keeping things running, maintaining, repair, operating, as Katie mentioned. So in terms of public works, the regular consumable types of items, the bigger ticket types of items, so maybe a big pump or a generator. These are, again, as a result of this whole partnership, you can call Grainger for that stuff as well. Capital spend, I mean, it's right there in the title of this agenda item from Canoe and NL. So, I mean, capital expenditures, it's all there. They did a good job of sort of painting that picture for you, and feel free to visit our booth, obviously, for some more information on that. I threw budget savings in there. Again, municipalities are being forced to do more with less all the time. At least that's the pinch that I used to feel when I was there. And it's budget time now, unless something has changed. So, we can be there too. Actually identifiable, measurable savings that you can save from one year to the next. Procurement reviews, we do those with all of our customers, whether it's a municipality, a provincial government, federal government, a commercial enterprise. We start off quarterly. Some of our customers say, hey, we don't need that from you so often. We know, we trust you. You guys are Cracker Jacks. But we come in, we'll identify things in your procurement trends. So maybe we notice that the average size of your order is $6. Well, I mean, that's not necessarily an efficient way to go about things. We all know that it actually takes money to process a PO. Resources are being tied up. People's time is being used. So we can identify certain little things. Maybe you're buying the same thing over and over. Again, we'll stock it at our branch for you. So we can highlight some different things that we notice with our data from your procurement. And then emergency preparedness. I remember being part of that committee in my council experience and having to draw up a full-on emergency plan. So when it comes to the types of, well, first off, when it comes to actually building an emergency plan, we can do that. Again, certified safety professionals on our staff who have experience doing that at every level of government, and then as well with private enterprise. So in addition to the plan, it's also the products. When you set up your emergency operations center, the types of items that you're going to need in there, probably off-site, given some sort of a disaster or an emergency, we can help you get outfitted with that stuff too. And I think I'm going to move it over to Katie again.
There we go. So many people, especially in Newfoundland and Labrador, traditionally know us within that safety category, that PPE, fall arrest, etc. So in listening to our government customers in particular, we heard the additional needs that were required out there. So we've done quite a bit of work in expanding our offering within the environmental and our health and safety services in particular. So these are just to call out a few that are available now too. So safety assessments, again, lockout tagout issues. We're hearing quite a bit now within the electrical category, electrical safety. audits and testing to ensure compliance. I mean, so much attention has been given to our current situation that we are seeing internal training, certifications, etc. Now folks are getting kind of back to business and getting those certifications back up and running. So quite a few categories within that. Program development, training, repair certifications, calibrations, and rentals. So rentals in particular, I just wanted to call out as well for an opportunity for savings. So for example, maintenance throughout the summer, etc., extra equipment is needed. We do have some of that equipment available for rental within to confined space, fall arrest, gas detection, things that you would need on a short-term basis and not necessarily need to house that fleet throughout the year. So that is there available to reduce that cost of those projects that you have in those seasonalities in particular. And then lastly, consulting and turnkey solutions. So we have those resources to be able to look at your processes start to finish from the initial request to delivery, and where can we streamline those processes. It's not necessarily the cost of that specific hammer that's costing you at the end of the day. It's all those steps to get it there. And that's where we want to make your days as efficient as possible, and really get that product to where it needs to be as quickly as possible. So that's where our focus is. The more we learn from our sites, we are the boots on the ground, I always say, in this kind of partnership type of thing. So the more we can learn your current situations and some of those pain points, then we can connect those solutions with that. So with that said, I mean, basically anything that would fall within your, let me keep moving here. No, not going through. All right, so just a few additions. This is a little bit of an odd chart, but just to give you an example of some of those items that are now currently included within this type of agreement. So EH&S services, various services, certification, respiratory, fit testing, hearing conservation programs we're hearing quite a bit on. Lockout, tagout accessories with regards to roofing. So roofing, building envelope, these are all things that are now accessible to you. 3-year, 5-year plan, you know what your assets are going to cost with regards to maintenance. So these are all partners that we can come in, build out that plan, build out whether it's a maintenance program, etc., that you can utilize that and really get a better understanding of that proactive, preventative type of maintenance, take the cost out of your operations versus that the emergency repair types of situations that oftentimes escalates that costing a little bit additional. And then one other call out we hear quite a bit of more currently is the lone worker, fit for work, and driver awareness solutions. So again, these are all tools that we have, supports that we have to ensure that we keep your people safe and your operations running daily. So with that said, I'll pass it back to Matt, and we'll get close to closing it out.
Yeah, we're almost done. So with this slide, this is highlighting our services department. Again, any of you that are involved with your volunteer fire department, be it a municipal situation or a regional fire department, there's a good chance you are already familiar with John Hurley, who Katie had mentioned earlier is our services manager here in Newfoundland and Labrador for the last 25 years. So if he's not there now, it was probably a time when he was, and given this new arrangement, perhaps it's an opportunity to see some savings and conveniences. It's in-house. That picture of the branch that I showed you earlier on one side of one of those walls is our services department. So we have I'll get calls from a customer on the West Coast. They're heading to St. John's. Well, can we drop off some harnesses? Can we drop off an SCBA and pick it up a few days later? No problem. But also, that's a mobile service. That truck is a bit of a milk run. He runs all over the province, going everywhere and doing that. So if you already have a familiarity with John Hurley, he is a brand in and of himself, I must say. But if you're familiar with him, if you're familiar with that piece of Grainger's offering already, in all likelihood, it's these things on the screen. That's what you know of us. And again, it's in-house, and it goes beyond, again, around the province. And I think we got a little bit of proof of that somewhere. Yeah, so, I mean, we just sort of picked up a random sort of splattering of everybody on the beat around, not necessarily totally random based on the geography I'm seeing here. Seems to be a lot in Central, but we're all over the place. John Hurley and his team, and of course, keeping it in the family, John now, after 25 years, his son started working with him this summer. I don't know what's going on there, but maybe he's trying to keep it in the family or something. So definitely proud of that part of it as well. So that's kind of what we wanted to do. We wanted to give you a high-level overview of an example of something you can pull on, something you can do now to save money, save time, save resources based on this whole partnership up here on the stage. And I think Katie is going to maybe let us know how we can take advantage, how we can tap into some of these resources.
So this week we're located at booth 18. We've had a lot of great partnerships with our vendors as well. So swing by. We want to ensure everybody leaves with a little baggie of our vendor supports this week. But we do have a number of options as well. We do have our website, grainger.ca. I know for sure many of you are already utilizing that aspect. And again, we have the options of ordering online, our local branch, by phone, or contact myself or Matt. And like I said, just again, thank you so much for the partnership that we see on this stage, and it really lends to the focus and the listening that these folks are hearing of some of these challenges that our municipalities and levels of government that they realize daily. So these types of partnerships just makes that faster, easier, cheaper, and efficient, so you folks can get back to taking care of your people in your communities, and again, keeping them safe at the end of the day, and that's our main priority. So looking forward to connecting with everybody throughout this week, and throughout the sessions and at the booth, and then continuing forward on how we can support your communities. Thanks, have a great day.
Well, thank you, Katie and Matt, and Tim and Dave as well. We're really excited about this. I know it's early in the morning, so the excitement is not, well, I'm certainly not exuding excitement. These guys are, but I am excited, and you should be too. So just a quick recap, the Canoe Procurement Canada program is essentially a tool in our toolbox now of procurement. Not mandatory to use it, but rest assured when you dig into it, you will realize that it's certainly worth using. We've got an enormous large buying power behind us. We've got all kinds of preferred suppliers, and again, thank you to Grainger Canada for being such excellent partners of Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador, not only today, but the whole way through the pandemic. They were there for many of our members. And of course, as Dave and Tim both mentioned, this program supports local vendors as well. And that's really important for every one of us. We know the people that own the shops and businesses in our communities, and we need to support